Welcome back to the Wilkes-Barre Connect podcast, everyone. I'm Dan Kimbrough, and today with me I have Shay Jones-Vitale, who is the owner and founder of TriPath Synergy. We're going to learn a little bit about what TriPath Synergy is and what you can expect from this company and sort of where Shay got her motivation from. We're also going to talk about the TechCelerator program. This, again, is in that series where we're talking to the folks who went through Luzerne County's first cohort of the TechCelerator program, and I had the lovely chance to actually mentor Shay and work through that program as well. So this should be a fun podcast. So Shay, welcome. Thank you very much.
Dan, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a really great experience meeting you and getting to know you. And I just feel like my life is in such a different place from 6 months ago when I applied for this TechCelerator program. And
Yeah.
meeting you as my mentor. Yeah, really excited to be here and talk a little bit with you about the process.
Oh God, I'm looking forward to it. So let's start with TriPath Synergy. And so I know that originally you were working with EDSI and you're doing training within EDSI, and you got this notion that maybe I can do this outside as an entrepreneur. So at a base level, what is TriPath Synergy?
Yeah, exactly. So it started with I'm a behavioral health professional. I'm a licensed
Mm-hmm.
clinical social worker, and I have this non traditional job where I'm integrating wellness initiatives into the corporate world, into workforce
Mm-hmm.
development, and really seeing the positive response from staff in the workforce field, but also from participants, just really understanding that one of those barriers to being successful in the workforce is taking care of our wellness. So I do
Mm-hmm.
see that that's a merging path where people are starting to integrate both of those mindsets. And so for me, I get to do really cool things like talk about trauma informed care and the power of harnessing your stress response so you can be successful in job interviews and achieve personal goals, professional goals. And so I've found over the last couple of years working with EDSI that I love creating content. I love facilitating workshops. I love just sitting with people and sharing knowledge and just
Mm-hmm.
breaking down these bigger concepts in a way that we can digest and apply to be the best versions of ourselves. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I think you talk about the shift, I guess you think about business world and how we deal with our employees and work with folks, and the idea that wellness has become such a humongous topic in the workplace when 20, 30 years ago, those were things you did at home. Like you come to work ready to work, not ready to become better. So can you maybe speak to that shift as a behavioral therapist? Why are we now so focused on the we and the wellness at work?
Sure. I think, I've seen so much on the administrative side and the system side working in this company. They do what's called like servant leadership really well, and that like
Mm-hmm.
we are caring about what we can do as a leader, how we can serve the people that work for us. And it leans a lot into like social emotional learning. And so there's
Mm-hmm.
so much research to show that if I have emotional intelligence and I have really good coping skills and I can get past things like, imposter syndrome, and I can be self aware. That makes the really good leaders. That makes successful companies. And so
Mm-hmm.
now that we have research to connect that together, we're finding that it's even more cost effective to care for the bottom layer of people, and that ultimately we're creating a more energized workspace where showing up and able to perform to the best of our ability because we are feeling the best that we can feel, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
No, it does, and I think it's a key point that it helps the bottom line, which most business owners want to
Yes.
hear. That this is going to help our bottom line, so investing in this isn't a terrible thing, and it's going to help in the long run. But also, your employees are the best that they can be, and if they're the best that
Yes.
they can be, they are doing the best they can for you. And so, no, thank you for sharing that. And so talk about the journey. So you were at EDSI doing the training. Were you training the staff? Were you training the leaders and management? Who is it that who that you were training that we're transitioning into?
Yeah, so they started with a vision a couple years ago of, our unemployed or underemployed job seekers, folks on cash assistance trying to get back into the workforce, understanding that they do have the barrier of transition
Mm-hmm.
and change and loss and grief that comes with being in between jobs. Also, living in a poverty system, we're worried about food, clothing, shelter, the basic
Mm-hmm.
necessities. That does create its own stress. And we have a lot of single parents. So we were noticing as a state, the workforce development area was we're noticing that this is a need for clients. So we came
Mm-hmm.
in thinking that would be it, but it turns out staff also is the workforce. And so,
Right.
how can we give case managers and receptionists and the frontline folks, as well as leaders, the understanding about human development, the understanding about motivation, and
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, again, for the purpose of us all being in a good headspace, but for the purpose of successful outcomes. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's been really cool to see that start and then open up things like, well, now we're doing staff development trainings. My company has sent me to become a mental health first aid instructor. So that's
Okay.
an international curriculum. We don't create it, but we get trained in it. And then it's just like physical first aid. It's a way to teach people to have those difficult conversations,
Mm-hmm.
teaching a man to fish, teaching somebody to be self-sufficient. And I think for me that stabilize, support, um, educate kind of approach has been super receptive,
Mm-hmm.
and it just empowers people. It empowers people to do what they need to do to triage to the next step or identify the things that might hold that person back from success. So yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. And so it sounds so it's one of those. It's not just about the frontline employee or the management, or it's everyone in the system. That at
For
some
sure.
point, if there's any level of trauma, it's making sure that we're making sure that there's informed care for all of them. And I
Well,
love that the idea that there's mental health first aid as well
yeah.
as physical first aid, and that idea
Yep.
that we need it at all different levels. So no, thank you for sharing that. So
Yeah.
so you're at EDSI and you're doing the work there. Where does the spark or the idea come to transition into entrepreneurship and maybe look at doing it on your own?
Sure. So I think for me, it's also noticing and like in my personal journey, right? It's not an us and a them. It's
Hmm.
like we are all getting through life. There's not one person who isn't experiencing at some point in their life something that upsets their system, something that dysregulates them. And so since we can't get away from stress, right? How do we harness it? And so for me, my journey started with just the things that I needed to care for myself as somebody in this field, right? So that
Hmm.
I don't burn out, so I don't get vicarious trauma. And that led to me exploring, wow, okay, yoga's pretty cool. Or meditation is great, and exploring what is mindfulness based stress reduction, and just really going down a rabbit hole in my own professional development of these really research based but in complex things like
Hmm.
applications, but how do we simplify them in a way that helps us? Again, if I'm not taking care of myself, it's really hard for me to care for others. So I think exploring the more holistic way of mental health has
Hmm.
been impactful for me and in my own journey, but also like people like to know that they have the power to help themselves. I think that
Yeah.
when we don't feel helpless or hopeless and we have, the knowledge to do better, I just think that's where the path started, and it led to I'm going to festivals and I'm going to yoga expositions, and I'm seeing more and more mental health providers as a part of this space and wondering,
Hmm.
that is exactly what I would love to be doing. How can I be doing that? And that's where it started, as a wonder and a curiosity. And in the last couple of years, I've really been pushed to say, okay, you're never going to be ready. How
Hmm.
many
Hmm.
trainings are you going to take? Somebody might get value from just connecting with you with where you're at and knowing that we're all the expert of in our own lives. And that's also
Yeah.
the other vision for me, is like, I know what I know about this,
Hmm.
but it's
Hmm.
just scratching the surface. There's so much to know and to share. So connecting with other people in the mind, body, spirit field, so that we're
Hmm.
sharing that knowledge, and you know what I mean? Like bringing
Yeah.
that connection together.
Yeah. No, it's very cool. I know that was one of the things that you talked about that, sets TriPath apart, and one of the focuses is
Mhm.
that you're big on that connection with individuals. It's not so much
Yes.
about what you're getting from them, but it's about the connection, the conversation, the continued growth that today we may not be able to exchange something, but eventually, because we're that in that
Yes.
connection, we're laying that foundation to help each other. And so let's talk then about you've been doing this at EDSI and you figured out that
Mhm.
this is where you want to be, and you're seeing other professionals do this, and then all of a sudden in Luzerne County, you find out about the TechCelerator program. So talk to us about that and sort of that initial, am I going to do this? Am I not? Should I? What was that like?
Yeah, great question. So everything's a journey, right? Everything's a journey when you look back and there's a couple of roads and you have choices. And it is usually in those moments that you either project yourself forward towards the
Hmm.
goal and the thing you wish for, or where you stay where you're at because of the mental voice that says, like, oh, you're not ready. And so I had a very like moment like that. I was at work, I was checking my work email, and I signed up for the Chamber of Commerce's newsletter. So they had put in the newsletter, hey, we've got this TechCelerator program. It's our first time. If you are a newer business starting up, it felt like it could be a fit for me. And so
Hmm.
I just said, what do I have to lose other than my time? Like I'll apply
Right,
and see
right.
what happens. And I was blown away that they accepted me. And that got me really facing. That's the other hard part, is facing your own limitations and your patterns that are keeping you stuck. So for me,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
seeing that it's uncomfortable. I'm talking to people about making changes all day long. And then I'm like, oh man, this is out of my comfort zone. So I think that for me, it was getting rid of the negative self-talk that I didn't belong in that space because this
Hmm.
person went to business school or this person's parents an entrepreneur, and just believing that you belong in those spaces is key. And again,
Right.
like when you have an opportunity like that, if you don't try, it's always no. But at least
Yeah.
it's half a chance of yes. So I've been
Hmm.
trying to apply that. That started in January and went through April, and that again was mind blowing. And also being confronted with I have lots and lots of ideas, but committing and finding a plan and moving forward has been and will continue to be my struggle. So really
Yeah.
cool to get hooked up with people like you who see the vision, know the niche, can give me guidance. And also, there was another mentor, Dawn, another mentor, Larry, and they just teach me
Hmm.
about project management.
Yeah.
And yeah, and just, yeah, the connections in the community has been really cool to
Hmm.
just see that there's a whole world of entrepreneurs that want to lift each other up. And yeah, I'm on the right path.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And so again, you for the listeners, this is the I think our third or fourth conversation about the Tech Accelerator program. That's in Luzerne County. It started in Lackawanna County, but it's a process in which, as a new startup or someone who's looking to start up, you get this mentorship. It's a 10-week program where you get a mentor. There are people going over your business plans, looking at marketing, teaching you how to do market research. What for you was sort of one of the biggest eye openers in, now that I'm no longer working for someone else, I'm starting my own business? What was one of the biggest eye openers for you of, oh wow, I didn't even think about this is what I need to do to start a business or move this forward?
Yeah, and just like slight tweak in that, I still work for EDSI and I
Mm-hmm.
still do that in my day hours. And I think for me, the hardest part is finding that balance of not burning out, because when you're trying to build something extra, you will inevitably be working extra hours. And
Right.
so for me, one of those compasses or gauges is, it can't, like, what's a sustainable pace? Is
Right.
this still something that is bringing me joy and passion? And if I'm getting too
Mm-hmm.
far away from that, then I need to reset my schedule and reset what I'm filling my evenings and weekends up with. And I think that is the biggest challenge for a lot of people, is finding time. Time is a commodity
Mm-hmm.
that you just can't get back, and it's so precious to all of us. So I think finding a sustainable pace that isn't the structured 10-week program, but isn't sometime in the next 6 months, just finding holding myself accountable for how I'm going to continue to take the steps forward.
Yeah. No, and I think it's good for a lot of people to hear as well, is that the idea of what is a sustainable pace. Because I think when we
Yes.
think about business and entrepreneurship, everyone has a pace that they have followed or a pace that someone's prescribed. And it's like, well, that's great for them, but what's actually sustainable for you in your life, your lifestyle, and what you have going on? And so thank you for sharing that, especially because that's right, you have a day job. And most
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, like, you usually start, well, you still have a day job. And it's that people talk about the work-life balance, but now it's work-life balance because you're building something,
Yes.
continuing something, and trying to live at the exact same time. So thank you for
And
sharing that. Go ahead.
yeah. And I was just going to say that kind of is like, we don't lose sight of the problem. We may
Hmm.
continue to adjust and reshape the solution. And that's what I'm learning too. And part of
Yeah.
that reshape has been in my own reflection and aha
Hmm.
moments, which you have to be doing if you're going to keep excelling, right?
Yeah.
Is Yeah, like leaning into this idea that entrepreneurs really need to understand mind, body, spirit wellness. They really
Hmm.
need to sit with that, or they're going to crash and burn. So I think
Yeah.
just knowing that it is all connected,
Hmm.
and that is definitely a part of TriPath Synergy, is understanding how to also support entrepreneurs who are trying to do this.
And that was what I was going to say. Actually, was my next question was,
Mhm.
what was it like starting a company where you're legitimately dealing with working with people who are going this level of burnout and these things while doing it yourself?
Yeah, it's a lot of like, do as I say, not as I do, but it's finding balance of, hey, we're human. And
Yeah.
it definitely keeps me grounded in my own recovery. Like we're always trying to maintain changes. And I feel like we're all in recovery from something, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
to that point, we can we can really lean into when we're exhausted, when we're not doing well, when we're just keeping busy, busy, busy. It's a reminder of, is that something I would prescribe to somebody else? And that really
Hmm.
makes me sit and think with what the things that I ask others to do, I have to be willing to do too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's part of it, is making time for my daily practice. That continues to be getting away from the all or nothing. My daily practice
Hmm.
could be 5 minutes, but
Yeah.
it's got to be something that helps me tune into myself, and
Hmm.
just knowing when I'm getting out of my window of optimal functioning. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, it goes back to the idea of sustainability. What is it that
Yep.
you can sustainably do? And if you're building a business while working during the day and running family life, it may just be 5 minutes of mental wellness, and that's
Yeah.
all you get each day for right now, and
Yep.
that will have to work. So going back to TechCelerator, can you talk a little bit more about that program and again some of the advantages, I guess, to if you're going to start, why start with TechCelerator as opposed to maybe starting on your
Yeah, I mean, it was accelerated. It was accelerated knowledge. Um, it was the coolest thing about it was, you got what you put into it, you got out of it, I felt.
Okay.
And I
Hmm.
also felt like there was a great overview, but you get to pick and choose what do you need? Like, while we were all getting the
Okay.
same kind of, this week is this week is that. Some of us were just beginning, some of us were 2 years into our journey, and some of us were like changing our business model right in the
At the
middle of
last
it.
minute.
So it was really cool to see the final showcase. But the biggest takeaway I got was the connections to the small business community.
Okay.
I just think that we have so many free resources that some people don't know about. And for me, it was
Hmm.
the Small Business Development Corporation.
Hmm.
They have been great with, again, they give you webinars, workshops. It's all free. They want to elevate our small businesses, because we want to keep businesses here, and we
Yeah.
want them to be economically viable too. So you can't do
Mhm.
that without sharing knowledge, having a connection and a network. And so just opening my eyes to all the things that have existed in my
Mhm.
backyard that I just haven't been a part of. So I'm excited to
Yeah.
continue, again, same, forging relationships with people like you. Yeah, TechCelerator is a wonderful program. I know it was free to us, free to me. And
Mhm.
so just the idea that we had speakers come in to share their knowledge, and we got an overview of all the great aspects of a successful business, and
Yeah.
also challenged us to see if our business could be viable, or if it would fail.
Yeah. And I think that's one of those keys as well. Is many people have great ideas for a business, and maybe even the drive to sort of push it through, but is it a successful idea? Isn't it an idea that right now can actually be brought to market? And so I love that you bring that up, that that's one of the other things that you get out of Accelerator, is a way to sort of test it and kick it around. I know one of the things that was also interesting was when we first met, sort of, this is what Tripath Synergy was. And then the next time we met, well, it's changed and now it's this, but how it kept sort of being refined and refined. And you
Yes.
had the idea, but it was each week as you had to talk with these other entrepreneurs who were, coming up
Yes.
with their own businesses, but also then talking with these professionals and listening to these speakers, how your idea, still your idea, just got refined and refined and refined till eventually, well, no, this is actually what TriPath is. And then it
Yeah.
was that going forward. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great observation, because I think there's a couple of things going on there. It's another big lesson was not making assumptions based on what
Hmm.
you and your close family and friends will encourage you. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Like the mom test, like mom's always going to tell you,
Yeah.
you're doing great, honey. But not making assumptions and actually doing customer discovery, asking
Hmm. Hmm.
people. So I put out a couple of surveys. I try to get information from just conversations to validate what I was thinking would work, but also what
Hmm.
do people want? Like rather than making
Yeah.
the assumption, always asking. And then the other part of that is I went in there going, hey, this is a viable option. This is what research says. But like, I mean, I'll do that if I have to. And they said, well, this is actually the opportunity to explore the thing that feels too big, to
Yeah.
explore the thing that feels like the wish. And that's where I said, for me, I'm qualified to do traditional therapy and counseling, but I love the niche of, hey, like coaching,
Hmm.
consultation, workshops, psychoeducation, that you have to be a little more creative and there's a little more
Hmm.
risk with making that a viable business option. But that's where my heart is. That's where my passion
Yeah.
is, right?
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love that the idea that, you started at point A, and when it was refined down, it actually was refined into what your passion actually was,
Yes.
not what you assumed it was. And I love that you say, remove the assumption of what you think is going to work, and let the process
Yes.
work out. And so, and I
Yeah.
know we've talked to a few of the other folks that were in the program, and that discovery process is something that everyone brought up, as the idea of, I have this brilliant idea, but no one ever thinks about going to market and testing and just asking people, if this is what I did, would it actually be viable to you and actually be valuable? And I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss that phase. And so I love that TechCelerator sort of forces you to slow down and say, no, 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 no. You've got a brilliant idea, but does anyone care?
Yeah. And the other thing that they're just, the people that ran it were wonderful.
Hmm.
The other mentors and speakers they brought in were just so relatable and accessible. And the first class, um, Dawn, the instructor, said, "Don't stay
Hmm.
stuck. Here's my number, call me." And
Yeah.
some of us are afraid to take up space or we don't want to bother people. And so with his permission of don't stay stuck, that was a breakthrough for me of just
Yeah.
calling, reaching out, asking, emailing. And it was, instead of staying stuck and doing it on your own, that's the part of TechCelerator that I love, is you're not doing it on your own. I
Hmm.
think most successful businesses know they need help. They need
Yeah.
partnerships. And
Hmm.
also like reframing, is this my competition or is this a potential collaborator? And
Yes.
knowing that we all have our own niche and our own gifts, and yeah, it's a beautiful thing to collaborate with other people doing good stuff.
No, that's amazing. Thank you for that. And again, shout out to Don Webster and TechCelerator.
Yeah.
I know it'll roll around again next year for the next cohort here in Luzerne County. So for those listening, make sure you follow along. We'll get you that information. And thank you also for bringing up the SBDC. We actually have Dorothy Lane on an episode coming up, I
Oh,
think
cool.
after yours, but talking about the relationship between SBDC and TechCelerator and what they do. But I think what you brought up was amazing, is that a lot of people don't realize how many free resources exist in our community, like
Yes.
like SBDC. They'll do your market research for you. Like they'll find the people that are your
Yes.
competitors and give you the data and the research so that you can build it out. And I think that's one of the big things that people miss, is that there are resources available. And I love that
Yes.
Don told you all to not get stuck.
Don't
And the
stay
idea of
stuck.
just ask the question. Someone out there has an answer and is more than likely willing to share it with you if you just ask. And so I
Yeah.
love that that was what you got out of that experience, and sort of what comes through there. So shifting now into TriPath, what is now TriPath? So
Yeah.
you're at EDSI and you're still there, but you're doing these trainings and these things. And I know that one of the things that we filtered through is that you're not really training the folks that are doing the everyday work. You're more focused on the actual trainer or the
Yeah.
manager and those things. And so talk to me about A, what TriPath is, but B,
Yep.
why that's where you feel the focus needs to be.
Yeah. So for me, the name TriPath means two things for me.
Mm-hmm.
TriPath is almost that mind, body, spirit connection. The stress response disconnects us from
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
ourselves. And so by engaging in mind, body, spirit practices, we are back in our window of functioning. And so for me, it's
Mm-hmm.
really important that we have knowledge in all three of those spaces, no matter what we're teaching people, showing people, because that's how we can't do our best if we are not feeling our best.
Right.
So
Right.
it's the three paths to wellness. And then the other part for me is like the three different ways I can give services to the community.
Mm-hmm.
So one path is folks of us that are doing this in the community are healers, are mental health professionals, maybe massage therapists, people that are doing mind, body, spirit work,
Mm-hmm.
giving them professional development, right? So like I only know about mindfulness based practices because I went outside of my niche of maybe cognitive behavioral therapy. So it's again integrating the different paths of knowledge for our professional development trainings. I'm always seeking continuing education opportunities and to be a trainer for those folks, for those helping professionals. Again, that's one road or one path to services. Another path would be, again, working with companies like EDSI to do wellness
Hmm.
initiatives. Is this looking like, hey, it's the staff wellness day at the school district, and it's webinars and workshops that educator workplaces bring in on occasion, or is it working with your human resources department to figure out if we're doing empathetic customer service or trauma informed customer service, right? So just meeting
Right.
with corporations. And then the other one is just direct coaching. So that could
Hmm.
look like one-on-ones with folks, virtually or out in a nature space, just working with entrepreneurs or just folks in the community that are wellness consumers and want to work on their own goals. And that could also look like coaching in group workshops.
Right. Oh, thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so thinking of the setup and the idea that, it's the connection and making sure that
Yes.
people are aware and able to take care of themselves in the workplace and
Yep.
sort of do their best. And so, where, I guess, ideally, where do you want to be? Where are we going to find Shay and where are we going to see Tripath Synergy?
Yeah. So on the digital footprint, you can find me on
Mm-hmm.
a Facebook group, right? Tripass Energy. But
Mm-hmm.
where you would tangibly find me would be being contracted through professional development agencies. So where you're seeking your professional development, I might be contracted to host a motivational interviewing
Mm-hmm.
training, or talking about mindfulness based recovery and relapse prevention
Mm-hmm.
practices. So it's really working with other agencies in our community, other nonprofits in our community, to bring that training to their staff, their professional development
Mm-hmm.
staff. And then the other ways you might find me would be at, just one-off events, pop-up events where I'm collaborating with local gyms, or I'm collaborating with, maybe a shop in other
Mm-hmm.
small businesses, where I'm coming and doing an integrative topic that maybe they don't normally offer to their gym seeker or their wellness
Gotcha.
consumer. Yeah.
Very, very cool. So if someone's interested in sort of working with TriPath, it's the idea of go to your supervisor or your manager and say, hey, the next time we're doing professional development, next time we're doing CE or something of that nature, here's someone we may be able to bring in who
Yeah.
can bring a new topic or a new spin on it. If you're at the gym and you're looking for a way of how do we make yoga a little more effective, maybe it's bringing you in to work with the yoga instructor and doing things of that nature. And
Yep.
so it's more you're going to be teaching a class of individuals, or you're going to be working with a
Yeah.
trainer to teach them how to work with individuals.
Absolutely.
Very, very
Yeah.
cool.
Connecting with the population that's already being
Mm-hmm.
served in that business,
Right.
or connecting with the servers of that business, right?
I like that. I you said that connecting with the population that's already being served and sort of
Yep.
adding something new for them. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
in the real world as well, I know one of the things that you talked about was the Wild Women Festival and how you were really, really interested in that one. We can
Yeah.
talk a little about why that was one of those festivals that stood out for you.
Yeah. So this is where this continuing to talk about these things at some of these events I go to. I really love to consume things like the Nipa Yoga Festival. And in the
Mm-hmm.
last 2 years, there was a new event that popped up called the Wild Women Nipa Festival. And
Mm-hmm.
it is a local nonprofit, and it really just connects women in our area with
Yeah.
all these holistic wellness opportunities, workshops. It's out at a local park, and it's just connecting good energy and good small businesses together. And so I went to that as a consumer 2 years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where I was starting to have this idea of, this is pretty cool. Like, I'm going to workshops on, they might call it inner child healing, but it's internal family systems. There's like ways that we're able to heal people in a non-traditional space, right? Without insurance, without billing, that is just more accessible. And so for me, I was really in awe of that. And that started me thinking about, how can I move this forward? And then last year I attended again, and I thought, maybe I should be a presenter. And so after finishing TechCelerator, I thought, hey, listen, we've developed the logo, we've developed the name, I have a little more idea of what this might look like. Let's market it. And I just, again, same thing like that newsletter was
Yeah.
advertising TechCelerator. It's are you ready to be a workshop facilitator? Are you not? It's so much
Hmm.
easier to do this for my job and say, I'm representing EDSI versus I'm representing TriPath and myself, right? So I just
Yeah,
said, do it scared, throw it out there. They could say yes, they could say no, and they said yes. So I'm
that's
super
amazing.
excited to be part of their third annual. It's on Saturday, August 23rd at Lazy Brook Park in Tunkhannock. And I'm going to be presenting a workshop on how we integrate mindfulness practices to maintain change. Right.
Okay.
So, yeah, just talking about just the stages of change a little bit, and then
Hmm.
leading people in a guided meditation to help them manifest some of the goals that they have.
Very, very cool. That's awesome.
Hmm.
And so yeah, for those listening, again, that's August 21st. You said
August 23rd.
August 23rd, the Wild Woman NEPA Festival. And then online, the website is tripathsynergy.com.
You got it.
And then the Facebook group is Tripath Synergy as well, correct?
You got it. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So if folks are looking to connect, that's the easiest way to reach out to Shay. Try to get her at your organization or some sort of training in there and those things. So
Yeah.
very, very cool.
Yeah.
And so as we look to wrap up, you talk a
Mhm.
lot about the mind body spirit connection and the sort of, again, that tripath, and that's where the name comes from. You know, people are always trying to avoid stress or eliminate stress and trauma. What would you say to them, given the work that you're doing and the idea of avoiding or eliminating stress and trauma? What would you say to someone who's trying to get those out of their lives altogether?
Great question. I think first we have to accept, right? Accept that discomfort is a part of life. So
Right?
sometimes we create more stress by trying to avoid it. Um,
Hmm.
we have to learn ways to manage it, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I like to lean into polyvagal theory. It's the window of
Hmm.
tolerance and just picturing your optimal window of functioning. And when different things pop up along the way. If I'm not doing my preventative care, I am escalated out of that window or I am dissociating below that window. And so being really in tune with how stress personally impacts me mentally,
Hmm.
physically, emotionally, energetically. When I can be in tune with how stress impacts me, I can see when I'm starting to creep out of the window versus
Right.
waiting till too many things are affecting me and then I'm exploding, right? Or I'm
Yeah.
isolating. So I think self awareness and acceptance that stress is unavoidable, but I can certainly practice a pause, find what is in my control, and really lean into the preventative wellness that you need to do microdoses of all day.
Yeah. And I like how you said that the microdoses all day and the idea that
Yep.
yes, we the goal if the goal is to eliminate stress, you're causing more stress
It's not
because you can't
realistic.
eliminate
It's
it.
just not
Right.
realistic. Yeah.
And I think also it's because it's not internal. Like most of our stressors come from the outside. And so we can't
Hmm.
eliminate what's coming at us, but it's the idea of how do we manage it and how do we make sure that in our day to day, we're starting our day at a point where we're already sort of regulated. So when we get
Yes.
these barriers and we hit the bumps in the road, we know how to
Yep.
move through them in a regulated manner as opposed
Yeah.
to sort of reacting to
And I also think that for me, it's been a lesson, right? So when
everything.
you are in the behavioral health field, you think that you've got to have it together. You have all the knowledge, so you should just always have it together, and that's just not a realistic expectation for yourself. So I think for me, it's
Mhm.
also normalizing that I am going to have ebbs and flows, no matter how far you are in your recovery or your healing or your wellness
Mhm.
journey. Just without your permission, things happen and you
Yeah.
sometimes backslide a little bit. So I just think
Mhm.
self awareness and self care are the hallmarks of avoiding burnout. Yeah. And it's
Mhm.
different for everyone. What works for you and energizes you might be different for me. So, and that's the importance of sitting with yourself and sitting with others and learning what you
Yeah.
need.
When it goes back to what you said earlier, it's about the idea of sustainability, and it's not just sustainability overall; it's what's sustainable for you, and
Yes.
figuring out how do you
Yes.
regulate you, how do you calm you, how do you
Yes.
move you through those things, and don't
Yes.
get stuck. If you can't figure out how to do it on your own, reach
Yes.
out. And it sounds like Shay is who we should be reaching out to.
Yeah, I'd love to. And everything is to me, I feel like we are the expert in our own lives. We don't always see the path, right? And so I think
Right,
it's so
right.
important to know that everything I do can be client centered and customizable depending, right? So I'd say just
Yeah.
reach out, send me a message, and we can see if it's a good fit for us to work together.
Awesome, awesome. Well, is there anything else, Shay? Anything I forgot? Anything you want to add for listeners?
Yeah, no, I'm just excited to continue because that's the other part of TechCelerator is my connections didn't end. So
Yeah.
I get to continue connecting with you
Hmm.
and learning from you. And, hopefully on the horizon, I'm going to learn all about podcasting and how I can
Uh-huh.
connect other wellness professionals on a platform with me.
Yeah.
So that's hopefully something we'll continue to learn and grow together. And yeah, I just appreciate the space. And yeah, I look forward to learning more.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Shay. For our listeners, this is Shay Jones-Vitale of TriPath Synergy. You can find her online at tripathsynergy.com. There's a Facebook group as well that just started. If you're local and you're listening, check out the Wild Women Festival of August 23rd here in Northeast Pennsylvania. And that is it for this episode of Wilkes-Barre Connect podcast. Thank you very much, Shay.
Thanks, Dan.